The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. And I mean, literally, good morning, as it's just after 5:30 a.m. here as I hit record. I usually do this show. I record the night before, right? And post at 6 a.m. every day. I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and recording this thing and put it out there, except today. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yesterday was a little bit wild. We had the Inside Arkansas Live, and then we had a thing that we had to do for our sponsors right after that. And then we had the JJ Andrews commitment, which was awesome. We went live for that. Once I got the podcast version out, went to Baum Walker Stadium for the Arkansas-Tennessee game with Andrew and John. It wound up being a 4-hour game and a little bit of a downer. Stopped to get gas on the way home because I knew that I had an early trip this morning. Then I get home and I got to go out to my backyard and go check out my fence because apparently some idiot tried to jump over it or through it or something and inflicted a little bit of damage out there. So I wanted to see what exactly the heck was going on. By the time I got back in the house, it was after midnight and had to be up and out the door about 4 a.m. this morning to get my pregnant wife to XNA for a flight to her job for the weekend, which I'm not super crazy about. Her and the kiddo to be being out of town for the weekend. I guess me and the dog are just going to be living the bachelor life here. But at any rate, just got back from the airport and the show must go on, right? So we're going to talk a little bit of ball here. And I'm going to see if I can get just a little bit of shut-eye before heading to Alumni Hall for our show Inside Arkansas Live at noon today. But right now we're fueled by Red Bull, baby. So here we go. A lot that we got to get into today. And, didn't have to think too hard about it, thankfully, because still, a lot of Razorback basketball news going on. It's nice when the shows kind of prep themselves and you can just hit record and start yapping, as opposed to, like we've kind of gone through some of the dog days here, recently where it's like, man, I got to really dig deep to fill the airtime here. It's crazy, right? But hey, we've got a future Hog that's in the fold now in JJ Andrews for 2026. So what's next? Everybody wants to know the answer to that question. We'll talk about it. Some more news and notes from the Combine. Some very, very interesting, I think at least, scheduling notes from John Calipari. So let's jump right into the action here, starting with our heavy hitter presented by HD Roofing and Construction. When those unexpected storms hit your home, you find your peace of mind by contacting HD Roofing and getting a free inspection. Scope out the situation, see what's going on. They're all great. Ask for Garrett, though. My man came out and did an awesome job at my place recently. Really do appreciate him. Saw him at the game last night, actually, Arkansas, Tennessee. He was out there enjoying himself and do appreciate him. No matter who it is, though, when you go with HD, you're going to get professionalism. You're going to get top quality materials, and you're going to get expert installation. Contact them today to get scheduled for your free inspection. You see the number right there, 501-428-0429, or go to their website, hdarkansas.com. Our heavy hitter, guys, there's not really any suspense here. It's JJ Andrews, right? It's the new commitment, future Razorback, legacy guy who chose Arkansas over Missouri and LSU yesterday to get John Calipari and the Hogs on the board for the 2026 class. So, he's not going to be on the floor for the Razorbacks this coming season. But after that, he is. You've already got one in the chamber for that next, upcoming roster. Listen, when John Calipari wants you and he prioritizes you and he goes after you, he's going to get you. When that's the case, you're not going to go be a Tiger at either one of those places. I'm sorry. Know your place in the pecking order. Dennis Gates, Matt McMahon, that's just the way that this works. So it is what it is. And folks, hey, we went live for an instant reaction yesterday for about 40 minutes. Andrew and I hopped on. It was a lot of fun right after the announcement. So go back and check that stuff out if on YouTube for a more in-depth analysis of JJ and kind of relive some of those moments. People were excited, fired up, pumped up. It was very, very cool. But a quick rundown on JJ Andrews for those unfamiliar with his game. High 4-star consensus top 40 prospect in the aggregates there. The number one player in the state of Arkansas for 2026. That's not up for debate. Gatorade Arkansas Player of the Year, a 2-time state champion, Little Rock Christian, Peach Jam champion on the EYBL. He's listed at 6'6", 200 pounds. And it's interesting because the last time I saw him, I thought, yeah, he ain't 6'6", but it's been not quite 9 months or so. So maybe he is now, because I was seeing guys like Paul Biancardi calling him 6'8". I've seen some other people call him 6'7". Man, if that's true, that's really, really exciting, the potential here. But 6'6", 200 pounds, what he's listed at, he's built like a young Adu Thero. Doesn't play like Adu Thero, but he looks like him. He's a grown man for a guy getting ready to go into a senior year of high school. Averaged 29 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks per game as a junior in high school this season. And he's picked up right where he left off with just dominant early showings on the EYBL 17U with Brad Beal Elite. Just averaged nearly 20 points per game in the first weekend session, over 4 rebounds, 2.5 steals, super, super efficient too. He's like 72%. That's because he's getting out in transition, dunking it on people's heads, getting to the rim, finishing downhill. But then he's also knocking down threes. It's not that he's just this physical specimen that's just bigger, faster, stronger than everybody. We've seen that with some of these Arkansas prospects in the past, and it doesn't always necessarily work out for them in the long run, because then you start playing people who are as big and fast and strong as you are. But he's really worked on his game. He's a skilled player. He can operate in the half court. He can operate on or off the ball. Really excited about this addition for Arkansas. And honestly, shout out to Cal in his, 2 recruiting cycles here since taking the job, for keeping the 2 top players in the state right here at home. You got Isaiah Seeley coming in this year. You got JJ Andrews coming in next year. You love to see it. And then I think between the in-state factor and just the exciting and tenacious brand of basketball JJ plays, if you haven't watched him, he's a fun watch. Plus, he's a really good kid. I promise I'm not just trying to do like I want to really gas this guy up because he just committed to Arkansas. Awesome kid. Humble, mature, hardworking mentality. He's going to be an immediate fan favorite type. I wish he was jumping on board this coming season, but you got to wait. We got to be patient. There's other guys coming in this year to be excited about. But that news, as we know, it was yesterday's news, right? And so that means everyone's already moved on to their favorite question, which is, so, what's next, right? Well, immediately, in terms of what's next, we're hoping, all right, Karter Knox, you had your fun at the combine, buddy. Maybe you could just come on back, make that announcement. Hey, can we add somebody else? Let's one more guy, maybe, to round out the upcoming roster. We'd be cool with that. But as for 2026, because this is the class that JJ Andrews is in, if we're following now the Calipari 4-4-2 formula, right? The 4 returners, 4 freshmen, 2 transfers, well, you're 1 down and 3 to go with the young guys. And we know that, we've kind of talked about how I'd love to see it, which is Cal's always going to be good for a burger boy or 2, a 5-star or 2. And he's in the thick of it with several of the best in the country. It's still very early on there. But then get the best player in your own state, and then go out there and get a big guy. I would love to have a freshman big guy in every class. You got to put Kenny Payne to work, man. You give that man something to do. But honestly, I just like that idea. Like I'm okay with, you think about Arkansas situation right now with Trevin, Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan, that 3-man rotation of potential bigs there. Yeah, man, I'm all for that. That's great. I don't consider Attell a big. I mean, I think he's more of a jumbo wing. Like I think he's more of a 4-3 than a 4-5, if that makes sense. But you got those 3, and then I would just love to always have a freshman in the fold that you're grooming, right? Developing. He's practicing against those guys, getting better, doing a bunch of individual work, and and you hope for something from him in year 2, unless you can get your hands on one of the 5-star bigs, which I'd be cool with that too. But it was interesting that Cal said the thing about, like with the 2 transfers, that he kind of said, hey, we would like that to be with our size, with our big man, because they're more physically mature and everything like that. Hey, and if he wants to go get his bigs out of the portal every year, fine by me. The more grown man you have around the rim, the better, in my opinion. But it's always nice to have a youngster in there. And heck, last year I felt bad for the GAs at Arkansas because good grief, they literally had to practice every single day against Arkansas's big men because they didn't have any practice bodies in there. Remember, Lawson Blake was coming off of that Achilles injury, so he wasn't available for that in practice anyway. So that's another thing I'm going to be really interested to see with this upcoming roster. As I know I'm getting off track here. Listen, I'm sleep deprived. It's 5:41 in the morning, but I really hope, when they go out and flesh out the back end of the roster, and I'm not talking about rotation guys and, if they're going to make another big ad or whatever, I'm talking about like 12 through 15 or whatever. Remember, they just got a bunch of guards last year, and that's cool. I mean, you do what you got to do, but wouldn't it be nice to have at least one extra big man? I mean, like one random 6'9", 230-pound kid that it's just a body in there. I'm sure those GAs would appreciate it. But anyway, with the 2026 class, what comes after JJ? It's one heck of a foundational piece to have in there. And you think about Tyron Stokes. We talked about him so much, and why wouldn't you? He's the next AJ DeBansa, the next Cooper Flagg, the next, and I don't say that lightly, but he's the number one prospect in the country for a reason. Had he have reclassified, which was some of the smoke early on, he would have been a top 3-4 prospect in this year's class. 6'7", 240, he's a point forward. He's the real deal. And some of that reclass smoke has really died down. In fact, I'm gonna have to go, check my facts here, but I think I saw that he's actually going to wind up playing AAU ball this summer anyway, when initially he wasn't. And that's why everybody's like, he's not playing summer ball. This kid's going to reclass. And now it sounds like he is going to play summer ball after all. But regardless, hey, he's listed Arkansas among the schools that he wants to get out to and visit. And there's going to be a long laundry list of suitors for him. There already is. Kentucky's in there, Louisville's in there, Kansas is in there, Gonzaga's in there. I mean, a bunch of places out there. But Arkansas is going to be in that mix too. And you know the drill here. You get a guy on campus. That's always been the thing at Arkansas because a lot of these kids don't know. And hey, Arkansas has been, a lot of postseason success. This is a name that people are familiar with in March Madness at this point, but you don't know much about it if you're not from the region, really. It's like, okay, Arkansas, whatever. But you get them on campus, and they might have low expectations or no expectations, and it's like an undersell, over-deliver every single time. It's beautiful here. You're thinking Arkansas, you're thinking, it's just country hills, whatever, and you get to Northwest Arkansas, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. You got a little bit of everything here. Wow, man, the people are so nice. Look at this campus. Whoa, these facilities. Wow, this fan base is nuts. The passion, it's unreal. It over-delivers every single time someone comes here for the first time. And if you add to that, John Calipari, the best recruiter in the history of college basketball, and that's not a stretch to say, you always have a chance with guys like this. And at some point, at Arkansas, Cal is going to get a guy like this. Now, he's been getting McDonald's All-Americans. He's got 4 of them or whatever since he got here a little over a year ago. So great. But we're talking about the elite of the elite here with a guy like Tyron Stokes. And I'm so interested to see how that plays out. I want to get a date. It's one thing for a kid to say, oh yeah, no, I'm going to schedule a visit to Arkansas. It's another thing to do it and show up here. That'll be fun. I might have to get my stalking shoes on for that and get out there to Cheers again, see if they're in the back room, just go on a walk the dog around the Graduate, just see if that kid's walking around a little bit. But at any rate, the conversation starts there. When you're at least in the mix, when the number one player in the country is mentioning you, then the conversation starts there, right? In terms of what's next. Taj Ariza, you guys remember Trevor Ariza? One of my all-time favorite, non-star NBA players. Because I grew up a big Lakers fan. I was a Kobe Shaq era guy, man. It was just my thing. I got the tail end of Jordan, and I appreciated it, loved him, but I didn't get the full experience. The Kobe Shaq thing I did. And so I was all over that. And Trevor Ariza, I loved it when he was on those teams. His kid is getting ready to graduate high school. Really, really good. Top 5 guy. Arkansas has been connected with him. I would love to see what they could do there. Would love it. Jason Crow, a top 5 prospect. Arkansas is in the mix there. Jordan Smith, who we've talked about, another kid that said, hey, I plan on visiting Arkansas. I think Arkansas and Kentucky are the 2 visits he's looking to take. He's been on several visits to Duke. You want to talk about a guy that looks like a prototypical John Calipari type of guard. He would qualify there. Mika Murinen, who we've discussed a ton because we thought that he's already taken an official visit to Arkansas during this past football season, right? This is the Finnish sensation, 6'10", 6'11", skilled Euro type of forward. And by the way, also a Bradville Elite guy, which is where you just got J.J. Andrews. So there's that factor to it. And we thought maybe he was going to reclass into this year's class, and then he didn't. And then we started hearing those rumors again, I guess over the course of the last month or so. And it hasn't happened yet, but it doesn't mean it won't. He very well may still reclass for 2025. And if he does, it's in what I said at the time, and I still stand on this, is there's been other schools who have had some momentum here. Texas Tech being one of them. There's a handful of others. If he reclassifies, I wouldn't call Arkansas the favorite right away, but that doesn't mean they can't get him. And it doesn't mean they won't pursue him heavily and try to make that happen. Like that, from what I understand, that relationship has been very strong there. And he really, really enjoyed his visit when he came to Arkansas. So you don't rule anything out there. So whether it's, a late reclass for 2025 or looking ahead to 2026, with a crop that right now seems kind of thin with front court options, especially guys who can play the 5 some, if you're in there on one of these guys right now, you gotta stay in there, in my opinion. Tay Kenny, another name in 2026 to keep an eye on, an overtime elite guy. Duh. Arkansas gets one of them every year with Cal, so we should just, print out that roster maybe and just say, all right, you're going to get one of these guys, probably what it's going to look like. Abdou Toure, maybe not with, now that you have JJ, kind of similar makeup, similar position type deal. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but it seems a little less likely now. Darius and Adonis Ratliff, we talked about the Twin Towers up there in the Northeast. If we really want, Arkansas to get some freshman forwards to get, double trouble there for Kenny Payne. So just a ton of names. And that's just scratching the surface here, honestly. And so it's worth noting that the live evaluation period is here, right? And the EYBL is getting ready to get rolling again. Memphis, I think Memphis this weekend and Kansas City next. Maybe is what it is. Whenever they're in Kansas City, I'm going to try to get up there. But at any rate, coach is going to be out watching these guys. And so this is going to be really, really good for us because we're going to be able to see, it's going to be Cal Tracker, right? John Calipari and that coaching staff, who are they out to see? And that's the beauty of it because, you can stream all these EYBL games, which is fun because I'm looking forward to watching some of these kids play. But then when Cal is there, he's front and center, man. Like you're going to see him. And all those scouts are going to be like, John Calipari is front row for, Tay Kenny or whoever. So that'll be fun. And what that means is be on the lookout for some updates on that front the next few days. You start to figure out, because right now there's a list of, 15, 20 guys. It's like, oh, yeah, Arkansas is checking on him. Arkansas is in on this guy. Arkansas is in on that guy. But who they are watching in person multiple times over the course of a weekend, who Cal is physically there and present for and watching, you start to get a good feel at this point for who the priorities really are. And so be on the lookout for that. I'm looking forward to it. What else? Day 2 of scrimmages at the Combine have come and gone. What stood out from that? Jamir Watkins. Man, oh man. He's tugging at my heartstrings here, folks. He looked good on Thursday. He was the best player on the floor out there in his scrimmage. And that's not an exaggeration. He looked elite. 23 points, 5 steals, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He was all over the place, showed some playmaking ability as a passer and a creator, was knocking down shots. He looked awesome defensively, super disruptive on the perimeter, defending smaller guards, using his athleticism. He is deceptively quick, getting out in the passing lanes. Like Jamir Watkins was legit electric out there yesterday. And frankly, it was one of those performances that could keep a fringe guy who is older like he is in the draft pool instead of back in college. Just being honest. We'll see what he winds up doing, but man, he was good out there. I'm not sure, because he's always going to have, probably more immediate money more in NIL in college next year than he would be making in the league. But you also have to consider, it comes down to starting your pro clock versus cashing in on one more year of college NIL, like beginning the grind, because if you're able to catch on somewhere, then you can start making that funny money. And when you're older like that, it's like one more year ticked off of it. So you got to weigh it. 1 year of big NIL, and then it's one less year for me to catch on and get that crazy money. So it is a conversation that you got to have with yourself, a debate that you got to have with yourself. I'm just not sure he could do anything more than what he did yesterday to help solidify himself. I mean, that's why you go to the combine. And tested well athletically, shot well in the drills, popped off in a scrimmage. We'll see. Actually did another round of checks on him and heard schools like North Carolina, which we already knew, Oregon, which was a new one to me, possibly Kansas, who's a little bit in on everyone. Like, they've been connected to Boogie. I don't know how connected they are. I've heard them connected to Jamir. Don't know how connected they are. I think they're just in a position where they've been replacing an entire roster. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe just some dot connecting. Baylor, kind of a similar situation. Alabama could potentially be in the mix there. Maybe even Duke if Cedric Coward stays in the draft. So listen, I know for a fact that Jamir Watkins has a soft spot for Arkansas. And I know that he wants to continue to solidify his personal stock. I also know, because he flat out said it in one of the combine interviews there, that he wants to go somewhere where he can get in the NCAA tournament and make a run. Well, if there's a place out there that you are familiar with, that you have been to, that you were comfortable with, and you were ready to commit to, and that place has a Hall of Fame head coach that has more draft picks to his name than anyone in history, and a program that has made 4 Sweet 16s in the last 5 years, does that sound good to you? Because it sounds good to me. All right, cool. There you have it. Jamir Watkins is a hog. That's all we had to do. Simple enough. Just let me talk to the kid. It's fine. Yeah, same thing. Nothing has changed on the Jamir front. Do I think he would be a perfect addition? Yes. Do I think it would set Arkansas's roster over the top? Yes. Do I think it would work from a fit standpoint with what they have, without disrupting too much? Yes, I do. I think all those things. Do I think they have the money to get him? Yes. Am I John Calipari? No. Okay. And do I think that they're going to get into a crazy bidding war for a guy like that, especially if and when they get Karter Knox back? Not sold on that either. And so I still find it unlikely, but we won't know for sure until we know. But speaking of Karter Knox, we're officially on Karter Knox watch. He was in that scrimmage too. Obviously, him and Jamir were paired up. Karter was good, not great. Or maybe I should say he was solid, but he didn't pop, in the way that Watkins did, where you really, really turn some heads and raise some eyebrows. Folks, that's a good thing. Right? He had 10 points off the bench, hit a couple threes, had a couple steals. He showed some flashes, but really we're in the same spot. Unless there are things going on behind the scenes with these, team meetings, or his agents cooking up something unforeseen, it does just feel like a matter of time. My sincere hope here is that Karter announces a return sort of ASAP, rather than drag it out closer to the deadline on the 28th. And I do think the end result with Karter feels like it will be kind of the same regardless. Like whether he announces today or, at the midnight hour on the 28th, I don't think anything's really going to change for him at this point by way of a stock or anything like that. I still, remain confident he's going to wind up back at Arkansas. But my point is, the sooner you can really turn your attention away from him to whatever your final roster plans are, the better. Because you can't assume anything in this business. And I know, and Cal's not going to do that. But if Karter announces, later Friday or over the weekend that he's returning, then you can completely turn your attention to however you want to round this thing out, whatever that looks like in his mind. But you can't really do that. You can't go all in on that until you know for sure with him. Because if he did do something crazy or unforeseen, got a promise that we didn't expect or a guarantee, or he just said, man, I've been here around these NBA guys and, these dudes who are getting drafted. This is just the life I want to live. I'm out, man. My family's got plenty of wealth, man. I don't need the NIL. I'm trying to start my pro clock. I'm over it with the school thing. And he dipped out. That completely alters your moves. And, that's why Cal said what he said at in Little Rock at the Razorback Roadshow in regards to, we're waiting on some guys. We're ready for whatever's going to happen. There's probably a plan A, B, and C here. So, we just talked about Jamir Watkins. Like, hey, if Karter wound up, deciding he's going to stay in the draft, and again, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just talking hypothetical, so don't freak out on me. That conversation with Watkins changes drastically. Like all of a sudden he becomes an absolute priority. You do get in a bidding war. You do whatever the hell you got to do to get a guy like that. Right. And so that's why you got to be like, you're almost at the mercy of his decision-making here. Arkansas has been in these positions before with guys who've gone through the combine, and a lot of programs across the country are in similar situations there. So, would that change your approach with Watkins? Absolutely. Would it change your approach with Boogie? Absolutely. Which I'm still not 100% ready to completely rule that one out. It's just, and here's the thing I'll say about Boogie, as we close the show here. It feels unlikely that it's going to be Arkansas, and a lot of people are saying it's not going to be. If you listen to the national guys, they're going to tell you Florida. They're going to tell you keep an eye on Bill Self. They're going to tell you watch out for that man Will Wade, right? And all that's probably true. All that's probably true, especially Florida. But I think Arkansas is getting written off maybe a little bit too prematurely here. How many times have the national guys been right with Cal and Arkansas here? They weren't with the J.J. Andrews commitment. I'm not saying those guys don't know what they're doing, but Arkansas's staff is very, very different in how they handle leaks and intel and info and getting that stuff out there to some of these national guys. I think that is very clear at this point. So, and I'm not trying to do the thing where it's like, I know something you don't know. I don't know what the hell Boogie's going to wind up doing. Like I said, I think it's unlikely at this point that he returns back to Arkansas, but you're not going to be able to convince me, given everything that we've said about the situation with Cal and, man, his 5-star guards and, helping the families and getting those draft picks. That stuff means a lot to him. It does. And I just have a hard time believing that John Calipari is going to let a guy like Boogie Fland just stroll on over to Todd Golden, someone else in the SEC, and flourish without a fight. I'm sorry. Just, you're going to have a hard time convincing me. So until Boogie Fland commits somewhere else, there's, at least in the back of my mind, there's going to be a piece of me. It's like, you never know. You never know. So I'm going to keep my eye on it. And that's something I'm going to do a lot more digging around on today. Man, there's some scheduling stuff that I want to talk about, but we do have things that we got to talk about over the course of the weekend. We've already gone a half hour here. So I'm going to hold off on that. So we'll have some more schedule discussion, some really fascinating stuff that Cal said out there in Little Rock that we'll get to for the Saturday show. And heck, hey, maybe we get some Karter Knox news and we go live at some point on Friday and have a little bit of fun there as well. But we'll wrap it up for now. Good stuff here on this early Friday morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you woke up in a decent enough mood after the way that Arkansas baseball game went down last night. But there's 2 more. Right, just win 1, lock up the national seed. Bada boom, bada bing. You're good to go. And it's the freaking weekend, so enjoy yourself out there. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, rocking with us, staying committed to the process here. We're having a lot of fun. We're enjoying it. If you're not subscribed to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel, do that for us. We would certainly appreciate it. If you're not following along, downloading the podcast episodes, do that as well. It helps us. We're just trying to expand our reach, get to as many ears and eyes as we possibly can. And keep this thing churning and burning, but can't do it without you. And we're sincerely grateful for everybody that's out there listening to us. But it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas, the Pot the Palace. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you when we see you. Worst case scenario, it'll be bright and early tomorrow morning, like always. Y'all have a good one.